Hello athletes, Travis here, about to dive into another training session. Today I was going to do some more speed endurance work. It's been trying to get at least 2 of these in a week, just to kind of get my legs used to that faster motion, trying to get used to those higher rates on a static erg, and just figuring out how to be efficient in redirecting my momentum at each end of the stroke. Today, I think this will be the first time in a week that I got this, and so not as active as I would have liked during the Thanksgiving break, mainly just because I'm bouncing between 2 houses right now more than just the Thanksgiving itself, and kind of family and whatnot. So also managed to kind of keep the food under reasonable control, and so I put on 2 pounds, over the holidays. Didn't deviate too much from an ideal diet. It was more of an issue of quantity than actually quality, and so that was good. I did eat some homemade pie, hard to refuse homemade pie, but homemade pumpkin pie, homemade apple pie, it was good stuff. But yeah, so not too bad, kind of made it out, relatively minor damage there. But, diving into training here. So going into this session, looking back at the last session I did this, the last session, I went too fast, faster than I wanted to on these, and was starting to build up some lactate, and I really felt that after that training session. And at this point in the training, I'm less than a month back into rowing training after being more than 2 years off of any sort of regular rowing. And so I really don't want to be building up a lot of lactic acid right now. I'm really just continuing my conditioning and getting my legs used to rowing again. So this workout is really meant to be kind of like controlled speed effort. I'm rowing 1 minute at what would be a 2-minute race pace. So, that should be a very manageable effort. And then I'm also rowing probably about 8 to 10 strokes below race pace in order to kind of hit those splits without slowing down the drive. And I don't want to be building up a lot of lactate, because I want to try to make sure that I'm consistent with my training, that one training session isn't really forcing me to do a lot of recovery. And just because, I'm not a student anymore, I have a lot of other responsibilities, and I can't be kind of dragging through the day trying to recover from a session. I got other stuff I got to do. So that's kind of the thought behind these workouts, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. So I'm thinking probably a 131, 132 is where I'm at, hitting maybe around a 38, 37. I really would rather kind of make sure I'm not bouncing up in that stroke rate, because that's really is what causes the split to go down. One thing I can say kind of about my rowing, and kind of something I've taken from many years of training, and at least a handful of those at a high performance level, is that there's a very good proportion of power per stroke, and it's a very natural when I'm rowing. And so if my stroke rate goes up, my split will go down proportionally. I don't have to try to do it. It'll just happen. And my inclination, certainly as a lightweight who trained with typical lightweight, preference for higher stroke rates, I get very comfortable just letting that stroke rate come up. And the split's gonna go down with it. And the reality is that my fitness just isn't where it needs to be right now to really back that up. And so I just need to kind of hold the brakes a little bit, keep that stroke rate a little bit more in the high 30s, and don't let it kind of creep into the 40s as I have been in some of these pieces in previous iterations of this session. But that's the plan. I'll throw it on. You guys can watch along, offer any kind of critique or questions or whatnot that you see from the video. But that's it. If you have other questions, there's a couple other topics that I want to cover for other logs. And so certainly food and what I do for food and diet will be a big one. We can dive a little bit more into strength if people want it, though. I think the third log vlog that I posted covered my strength, work and my mindset for that fairly well. But but yeah, we can talk about some other stuff, neuromuscular training, you know, sprinting specifically. What are kind of the challenges? You know, looking at the start of a piece, the start of a sprint piece is exponentially more important than it is on a 1,000 or 2,000 meter piece, where it's already important as it is. But yeah, so we can dive in, but throw some comments below if you have anything in particular that you have a question about. But that's it. All right, a little kind of post-workout debrief here. I felt like that went really well. I felt like I did better at sticking to the plan on that workout than maybe anyone so far on the erg this season. So big plus there. Ended up hitting my rates. I actually felt the lower rate felt much easier to hit because I'm also feeling some more strength in my legs. I did my first, over the holidays, I took a big break away from weightlifting unintentionally, but did my first kind of real lifting session last night. And my squats felt really, really good. So I was lifting the same weight, but was taking full depth, a little easier than I normally do. And was just kind of feeling more comfortable under the bar. So take that as a sign that the legs are getting stronger. And I felt like that today on my pieces. And so I felt like a lot more power coming out of the rate that I was rowing, a lot more than I would have been getting at that same rate a couple weeks ago. And even the last time I did this workout a week ago, which was probably the worst in terms of sticking to the plan. I really kind of overrated on that one, and the speed fortunately came with it, but was going much faster than I was intending to, and for which my fitness would have prepared me for. But even on this one, hitting the same rate on my last interval as I did on the second to last on that previous workout, I was going a little faster by a couple tenths, and so I was going like 130 flat versus 130.5 on the last time I did this when I was right at 38. But I also increased the drag a little bit, so I was more in kind of the 125, 127 range, whereas before I was in the 122, 123 range. I'll keep bumping that drag up, I think, a little bit each week as I go along. Last time I did a 1 minute race, I was at a 160. Now I would not do a 500 the same as I did a 1 minute race, because even though it's only about 20 seconds more, it's a far more aerobic effort than a 1 minute. You know, things really start to compound toward the end. It's not just kind of a, you know, standard sum. It's definitely more of a multiple in terms of where it's drawing from and how it's drawing from that aerobic system. But overall, I was happy with that. And so I was like 132.3 for the first two. And then that third one, I felt like I really got off the start really clean, really well. And I was just kind of staying long. I really only felt the effort for the last maybe six to eight strokes. And I was a little surprised when I looked up and it was 130.6 on that one at a 37 stroke rate. So overall, decent splits. I was kind of surprised that the first two, when I was rowing 132.3 average, had a 36 and 37 respectively. That felt incredibly sustainable. So that was, I would comfortably say that was a 2 minute racing split. But even that little jump on the last two, when I was into those mid to low 130s for the average split, not 2 minute pace. So I was definitely going faster, and it was remarkable how much even that little bit of time, that 1.5 second, made a huge difference in terms of how I was feeling at the end. The third one, I felt a little bit of lactate, a little bit of heaviness coming off of it, but I felt fully recovered when I was going into the last one. But the last piece afterwards really felt a lot of lactate, kind of burn, a lot of that heaviness that comes from that burn. And it lasted kind of for, you know, I mean, I still feel it a little bit. It's been about 10 minutes since I finished that piece. But so very interesting just how kind of dialed in and how little time difference it takes on that split to really create an accumulation of lactate. And I was kind of thinking about it in terms of, from a mathematical side, it's kind of almost like a factor of 2 on top of a multiple of 2. So like, you know, for, you know, 2 seconds it'd be 1, for 4 seconds it'd be 2, for 6 seconds it'd be 4, for 8 seconds it'd be 8, for 10 seconds 16, for 12 seconds 32. So that kind of a rate of buildup in terms of proportion to the amount of lactate I was feeling for the, you know, amount of, you know, tenths of a second or so that I was taking off of that kind of 132. So hopefully that makes sense. You know, it's just, you know, in my mathematical mind how I kind of think about it. But yeah, technically I definitely feel like when I feel that lactate burn, I rely a lot kind of on throwing my weight back to kind of keep up with the legs as they weaken through the last half of the drive. Probably just need to kind of really focus on staying tall, staying effective, and just really let those legs do their thing. But then once you're capped in rate, you know, the legs can only do so much at the rate before you got to find other ways to add speed into it. But, and honestly, if I was training for the water, that'd be a bad habit to get into. On the erg, not great, but definitely not as, it's not gonna hurt as much. You know, in a boat, you'd really be driving the bow of the boat down into the water. At the release, really putting the brakes on your natural momentum in the run through the strokes. On the erg, it doesn't matter. It's more just about efficiency, and you're losing less in efficiency, just pure efficiency of power output on the erg and with that motion than you would on the water in terms of losing efficiency with how the boat is interacting with the surface and the drag created by the water itself. But that's it. So a little debrief there. Hopefully it helped. If you guys like these kind of like, you know, in-depth kind of analyses afterwards, as well as kind of outline of the plan before, let me know in the comments. If you're not finding it helpful, then I'll make it super short. I'll just kind of do a quick intro, say what I'm doing, and kind of show some intervals. But otherwise, I'm certainly happy to kind of debrief. It helps me kind of think through my training as well, and kind of put it into words. So, but yeah, so thanks for listening. If you made it this far, you know, consider hopping on that Patreon. You know, any help paying bills is always appreciated, and kind of, you know, a nice little tip, a nice little thank you for making these videos. But yeah, hopefully it helped, and we'll catch you on the next vlog. Take care, guys. Bye.